Hi, I'm Sharon. Welcome to Eternal Love of Drama. This is where two uninformed drama enthusiasts share very strong opinions about the dramas that we have watched and some of the dramas that we haven't watched. So we don't know much about Chinese entertainment culture. We don't follow anyone on Weibo, and we can't even barely remember people's names, but that doesn't stop us from watching or enjoying them and enjoying making fun of them. So we start every episode with some awards that we'd like to give to a character or drama or something in any arbitrary category. So Linda, what are we giving an award to for this week?
Well, so we know that every hero needs a good sidekick, right? Someone that will be by their side no matter what, someone to run those annoying and impossible errands that need to be done that might take our hero away from our heroine or male heroine. That was very gendered. Or might take them away from the center of the action, someone who will do the dirty work, someone who will be their shoulder to lean on, and stand behind them no matter what the plot does to our hero. So sometimes they're loyal friends and subordinates, and sometimes they're sort of just there in the background. And sometimes they win our hearts. So today's award is going to be for the best sidekick. And I will start in the opposite order today. I'm going to give my runner-up award, which is a tie between Fei Liu in Nirvana and Fire, which I know you will talk more about, and Bai Yi in Mistruth, who, as we previously mentioned, is like cool because he's a sidekick that has his own sidekick, and his sidekick's an eagle. Come on. But my winner, of course, is Wen Ning, the Ghost General in the Untamed, because he is so sweet and so cute and so badass. He will kill bad guys, he will demolish your enemies when you need him to, and he will sell turnips if the clan needs money. He is adorable and one of the kind of bright lights and reasons why people keep watching the Untamed, I think.
So I'll agree. I'll give a runner up to Wen Ning, and I have this wonderful Wen Ning mug. I feel like this is actually one of the funniest scenes when he's like hiding in the brush and he's rubbing it all in his face, and he has it tucked into his like clothes so he doesn't get seen. Super cute. So I think he's a great sidekick. But my award goes to Fei Liu for being like a really cute pouty teenager. For B, really enjoying like flowers and stealing them and making floral arrangements. For C, eating a lot of tangerines. And D, for being actually a really, 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 really awesome fighter. So like part of, I think at some point we'll talk about this, but part of the reason that Nirvana on Fire is really interesting because for a martial arts movie, it actually has really well choreographed fighting scenes. And Fei Liu has a significant portion of them, starting from when he like initially meets like people and fights them off, all the way to when he gets to beat up the bad guy, to when he's like catching the criminal at the end, which is a super cute catch scene. So he gets my award, and definitely Bai Yi's eagle also gets an award.
No, you just skip Bai Yi and just give it to Okay, that's fair.
Because he has just as many lines as some of the other sidekicks in a lot of movies.
That's a good point. And he runs very important errands.
He does.
So yes, today we are going to be reviewing The Untamed, which is one of my very favorite topics of conversation. So we are intentionally trying to keep this short and experience ruining spoiler free.
Are we trying to be spoiler free?
I think that we can try to not give spoilers that would take away from somebody's experience, but there are spoilers that help you understand what's happening.
Okay. So let me just give a quick overview, because I think, so The Untamed is on Netflix, and Netflix has a pretty bizarre description. I think that I'll just summarize it by saying it's actually a fantasy costume drama, so slightly different than the traditional wuxia martial arts dramas where humans have supernatural fighting powers, and it actually is like a mythological universe that's created where people actually have supernatural powers. And so these cultivators, they can develop these powers, and they usually exist within clans. And these clans generally have as their mission to uphold justice and root out evil in the world. And so we follow in the Untamed two cultivators in particular, Wei Wuxian and Lan Zan, and their relationship as they get to know each other. It is interesting because so it's a very popular story, and I think it broke the internet when it started filming, but it started airing, but it's adapted from like a BL novel, which is a boy love novel called Grand Master of Demonic Cultivation, referring to Wei Wuxian. So it is that their adventures are important, like their quest to solve this mystery. But it's also important to watch like the development of their relationship with each other and with the other people around them. So essentially, Wei Wuxian.
There's no gay people in China.
They're friends. They're soulmates. So Wei Wuxian returns to life after being dead for 16 years. So he and Lan Zan have to work together to figure out like who brought him back, and like what are all the like particulars around that mystery, and then to also resolve some of the issues that resulted in him being dead in the first place. So that's the non-spoiler, I guess, version of it. And I guess a no spoiler, a couple of things that I really liked about it is, to your point, the Chinese censorship board plays a huge part in reviewing Chinese dramas. I think we don't know any of the details because we don't care, but essentially they like monitor things like you can't hold hands, or like no kissing, or no like super
racist
scenes. A lot of
wrist holding. You can grab somebody's wrist, but you can't grab their hand.
Yes. So there's also like messaging things. I don't know the details, but essentially because of this, an adaptation of like a relationship between two men is actually kind of interesting because they can't overtly state the relationship. And so the storytellers and the scriptwriters are forced to actually show, not tell in the relationship, which is something that's like very difficult to do per all of the crap dramas that we've dropped. And so I really appreciated how well they showed the character development and the relationship development, not only between the two of them, but also their friends and their family and the people that are associated with them. So we're actually able to engage and like, I think, appreciate that. So I really liked that. And I also, like to that point, really enjoyed how they wrote the supporting characters. So there are very few people that just deliver messages and the mail. And like, you care a lot about some of the people that are in their lives. So I liked that. And I'll say two quick things that I didn't like as much. So this is my general like issue with the fantasy genre, is that I actually like a really good fight scene. And all of the
magic.
It's like either terrible CGI or a lot of flying and spinning and like posturing, and like I just feel like that's very unsatisfying. So I don't like that as much. And I also feel like there were some unresolved mysteries, things that were talked about a lot initially, but that we never got closure or any. It sort of just seemed like they just dropped it all together. So one example is in the very beginning, in like, I guess, young Wei Wuxian days when he's in school, people talk a lot about his mom, who he doesn't know. And so he like wants to know a lot more about his mom, and she's very mysterious. And like, I still want to know more about his mom, but they just like dropped that storyline entirely. So that's something that I wish there was a little bit more of. Okay, so what about you? You love this. I watched it because you told me to watch it. And in fact, it took me a lot of tries to watch this, so.
I will say that it also took me many tries to watch this. I want to respond to a couple of things that you said, though, okay, because related to the supporting characters, I think that like one of the things for me is that like we were talking about various awards that we could give to this show, and one of them we talked about was like the juvenile baby man,
yes,
which is a character in many dramas, which is a man who has no impulse control, like says his emotions out loud, usually in a screaming way. He usually screams everything that he says. And Jiang Chen, that
Yes.
character who Wei Wuxian grew up with in the Untamed is like kind of like the epitome of juvenile baby man. And you know, those characters are sometimes like difficult to watch if you have, you know, if
Yes.
you struggle with like juvenile baby men in life. But it was like a very well developed character. And I think that for me is like the best part about this story. Like he creates like I don't actually know who anyways, it was the source material that has created this whole universe
Yes.
of like cultivators and sects and like you know, all the like different magical things that I think like it's such a like comprehensive and immersive world to like dive into. And it really gives like what I loved about this is the character development. Like the characters grow throughout and of course it spans a long period of time, but you get to watch them grow and you get to watch their relationships grow. And for me, like the relationship between Wei Wuxian and Lan Zhan is like, I mean, it's just those like, and you're right about like the role of the censorship board here or, you know, whatever, but they did such a good job. Like the longing glances and the like, there's a couple scenes that like I have watched multiple times because just like it's so touching the way they look at each other. One of them for me is like involves like juvenile baby man Zhang Chen
Okay.
and Wenning, our hero, right? When
Uh-huh.
Wenning is like revealing this big
Oh
truth
yeah.
about something, and the way that Lan Zhan is just sitting there, it's so fascinating because this actor has like, I'm going to say like a tenth of the lines of like everyone else in this, but he actually does like a really good job conveying a lot of feelings and emotions without hardly saying anything. And it is fascinating because there are so many, like these two lead actors are like both in boy bands, and it's like what, you know, people call idol dramas. Like they just put really pretty people in as leads in shows so that people will watch them, but like the acting is good, and like you really buy into this relationship between them and the way that it grows and develops, and it's like really really beautiful. And
That
so
scene he has
I
zero
love the
lines.
Untamed so much. What did you say?
So in that scene, he actually probably, I think he has zero lines in that. But I see I like your point about the longing looks, and I would say the best longing look I think is not that scene. I actually really liked the one very early on where Wei Wuxian has just come back from the dead, and he's like wearing the mask, and he plays the flute, right? I don't think this is a spoiler. So he like is with the young kids, and they're like fighting this like weird like bad CGI. Like it looks like a Sour Patch Kid, right? The thing that
Yes,
they're fighting, and he plays the flute.
I was gonna say
And
Groot. Is that Groot the tree thing, but like
the
stone
rock
instead?
thing, the rock thing,
Yeah.
and like this is like, and then he plays the song, and then like Lenzon just knows, and he like grabs his arm and just looks at him, and then like they
Not the
know.
hand, arm.
The arm. He
Yeah,
grabs the arm and they know. So that's I think one of the best like longing gazes.
yeah, yeah. There are some really good gazes there.
Yeah.
Gaze, Gaze,
Yes.
not Gays. So I don't want to say a ton more about
Okay.
this because I really will talk to anybody for hours about how much I love the Untamed.
Okay.
But what I wanted to do, what we thought would be helpful, is to give some tips to people who might be interested in watching the Untamed, who may be new to Chinese drama, maybe don't speak Chinese, maybe or are new to the genre, right? So because like you, I started and stopped many times. The biggest stop was probably because I avoid unpleasant things and
Episode
something really
one.
bad was about to happen.
Oh,
But like,
okay.
but you know, like the beginning is really confusing, and so we have some tips that we think would be helpful if you want to try to watch this, because you will not regret it. But it might be hard. And so the first tip, which like sometimes is like as much as we're trying to avoid spoilers in this video, this really helped me in watching Nirvana and Fire. And I realized that I had also done this when I watched before the time that I really watched it and like watched it through, is I read a plot synopsis. If you can find like a character guide or a plot synopsis online, it's really helpful. I think the people that like wholeheartedly love this from the moment they turned it on maybe read the book or were already familiar with the source material, because otherwise it's a little bit confusing. They do this time jump where they start like in present day, and then like 2.5 episodes in, they go back 13 years. I'm not sure. The book has one version, and the show, it's either 16 or 13 years. Anyways, they go back in time. So that's really confusing if you don't understand what's happening. So it's really important, I think. It's really going to help you enjoy it if you read some sort of plot synopsis or if you can follow a character guide. And then my second tip, of course, is like, don't worry about the time jump. Don't worry about being confused. Like, try to power through the first couple episodes, because it's just really confusing. We already mentioned he comes back from the dead, and there is some like discrepancy between book and show about whether he comes back in the same body or in somebody else's body. But like in the show, it's the same actor, which is why like, and then there's like all this confusion around he's supposed to be this other person, because in the book he came back in another person's body.
So this is really critical, because I started to watch this multiple times, right? And I had a character guide, right? So I kind of knew who I was looking for, but everyone you meet in the first 2 episodes is a minor character, right? Minus some of the kids who come back later, right? And so I was looking at this thing online, and I'm trying to like match it up, but I'm highly confused, because all of the people involved in the chaos in the first couple of episodes are not people that you need to remember. But I've like gone through all this effort of remembering who they are, and I don't understand what's going on, because the way in which they bring him back is also really confusing, because if you don't know that that's what's happening, that he's being like, someone's being brought back from the dead, you just think it's like this weird, like spiritual, like, I don't know, like
possessed or something.
Yeah. Yes.
So he has been brought back. I'm just going to tell you, so you don't have to look this up. He's brought back from the dead, and in the source material, he is brought back into another person's body. In the show, like the other person's body is his same body because it's played by the same actor. So he is brought back in some way, and that's part of the mystery, because they don't know who has done this and why.
Yep.
So the beginning is a struggle. There is a high barrier to entry for this if you haven't like done some pre-work. But again, like, I think it is 100% worth it. Okay. Okay. So do you want to do the third one?
Okay, everyone has a zillion names. I think this is a Chinese thing on one level, but this is also a storytelling device on another level. So the general explanation is that Chinese people have a name that they are born with, this is their birth name, and it's like the 2-character name in this drama. And it's one that your parents would use, your siblings, and like people that you are closest to in life that knew you before you were like in the outside world, like AKA like enrolled in school or something. And then you have your like 3-character name, which is the name that like it's polite for other people to address you by. And this is like anyone not your family can call you by your 3-person name. And then people have like titles, like they're honorifics, right? Like the greatest sister in the world sitting looking at you, right? And these are things that you're known for in the world.
Was that mine?
Maybe. So you see Lanzan, he has his name Lanzan, which is his like birth name, and the name that like, you see Wei Wuxian calling him. And then you know that his name is Lan Wangji, which is what everyone else calls him. And then he has his title, Han Guangjun, which is like the gentleman with the light or whatever, which is his reputation of being someone who brings order to chaos, right? And so like, this is like how...
People also call him Lan Gongzi, or
Yes,
which
right,
is
which is his
like the
position.
second, yeah.
So people have a lot of names, and I think what's important to remember is that like the only person that really calls Lenzan Lenzan is Wei Wuxian, which is like kind of a way that the storytellers are trying to tell you that there is a more intimate relationship between the two of them, like where he would consider him in the inner circle. And early on, he does experiment with what does he call him, and it's kind of comical, but you know.
Yeah, but that like shows the like character. It's part of the. If you can like listen for that, if you're watching it with subtitles, like it is part of the development of their relationship. Because in the beginning, when he calls him Lanza, and he's like, "Who are you to call me that?" Right? Like
Yeah.
his reaction is not like,
Yep.
"Oh, how sweet," but like then like the way that they address each other throughout really like develops as their relationship develops. So
Yeah.
it's really a cute part of the thing. Okay, so the thing about this though, that our next tip is to look out for the fact that people are color coded. It's very convenient when you belong to a sect, a cultivation sect, that everybody wears the same like uniform, right? So if you like look and you see people in white with blue trim, they are part of this what is the place called, like the cloud recesses,
Yeah. Yeah.
where Lanzan is from, right? I call him that because we're tight like that. but and then like all the people in the Wind Clan wear black, and all of the people like so like there is of course like the dark and light symbolism with the colors as well, but like if you get confused, and sometimes be careful when you're looking, because sometimes like people wear white with gold trim, right? So like it might be the trim color, but like if you're confused about where people belong, look for that color coding. It can be really helpful to
Well, can I just say something about the color coding? I think the color coding is also really important as a plot device or a storytelling device too, right? Because one of the big themes that occurs throughout this is like what is good and what is evil, right? Like this is a question that's both like implicitly asked and actually explicitly asked a number of different times. And I think that one of the things that happens in a lot of these like fantasy dramas or these like Chinese wuxia dramas is there's like a battle between good and evil that happens. And when you're part of a good sect, right, aka you wear like white with blue trim or white with gold or purple or whatever, you fight evil. But if you are the black with red trim, like you're evil. Sorry, if you're white you're good, you're black you're evil, right? And so part of what the storytellers are asking you to do is like identify the colors, but then try to look behind the colors at like the actions that people take to make a determination of what is actually evil and what is actually good. So like look out for the colors, but don't be super tricked by them, but allow them to be used to tell you or to show you a great story about like what is actually good and evil.
And I think that's the whole like thing about like the beauty and the depth of like Lanzan's character, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he's Han Guangjun, he's like the person that holds the light, and he is part of a good sect, and he is constantly advocating for other people to look clearly at what is happening, and to look at like the nature of people's character and understand their behaviors. And like the rest of the largely like so many of the other good people refuse to do that, right? They're only looking at the color of the clothes, right?
Mm-hmm.
um so I think that is like a really deep part of like this whole thing. And I guess another tip is to adjust your expectations around, like, especially if you're approaching this from like a Western perspective, or even if you just like have watched a lot of idol dramas, like these like um I'm thinking I recently watched Maiden Homes, and there's like so much making out, and like that's the whole point, right? Of like they cast these like really beautiful people as the leads in these dramas, and then like you want them to like have a romantic relationship, and in part because this is a BL source material, and these are two men, and China censorship board. But like also because of the beauty of this storytelling, like you don't have those, like they don't run up to each other and embrace each other. There's no making out, obviously. Like you have to adjust your expectations around how people express emotions, and it really gives you a chance to like look back at those longing glances and like those more subtle ways in which these actors, I think, do a beautiful job showing emotion and showing their relationships. So, and it's not just the two male leads, it's like also like his sister, and like all the like there's some really good stuff here.
Yes, I agree with that 100%. And I think that the way that the filmmakers or the showmakers used the music, and the two of them, they have their special song. So I think listen for their special song as like also a cue for like when they're having a moment that they can't also like actually have a moment.
Do you want to say more about the sects?
I guess not. Like, is there, I don't know, I guess I added number 6, something about fantasy lore and sex, because I think that like fantasy is weird, right? Because you have to have like certain expectations about like what is real and what is not. And I think like understanding that people can fly is like a normal thing. I mean, I don't know if these things need to be said. I'm not sure. I guess I was thinking like, if you're just surfing Netflix and it pops this up as a recommendation, like what would you need to know about like Chinese fantasy dramas, or like just the mythology or the rules of these worlds generally that would help you to like understand this?
This drama, unlike some other ones, actually does a really good job like showing you this whole world that they've created.
Yeah.
And I think just the like kind of understanding of like this whole idea in this genre of there being these like cultivation sects where people join, and then they like cultivate and they can get these powers, and then they like supposedly go do good with them, and then like that whole conflict that we just talked about, like are you really good, are the good people really good? I think that is really, I want to say one more thing about this. I think that's it for tips. I really think that it's fascinating because it's a BL story, like the two main leads are men, that like you get so many fewer of the annoying women who are like, this is like, again, like why we don't watch very much modern drama, because like somehow it is more hurtful to me when modern women are like being ridiculous in the name of trying to get a man than it somehow it is in ancient drama. But like my expectations for self-worth are lower in the ancient world. But like you don't get that much of that. You have some awesome female characters. Granted, they are like smaller. They have a smaller role. Like Wen Qing.
She's wonderful.
She's like a badass doctor, like the greatest doctor that ever lived. So like I just think that you get like a nicer representation of women when they are not vying for a man. So
yes. So my favorite female character is Mian Mian from the like Jing sect. I'm not gonna sort of super spoil it. She has like maybe like 10 lines in the entire show, but every time she speaks, she's like not taking something, like laying down. And I think that's a really wonderful way, because she says a lot of the things that you think in your head, regardless of if you're male or female, that she's like, this is not okay. None of this is okay, and you need to stop. And she says like that's her line that she uses like in every scene she's in almost. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So yeah.
She's a good, yeah, this, I just, we mentioned it in other episodes, but like this drama is just so rich. Like the supporting characters have their own like complicated storylines that are interesting to follow. Like you're not fast forwarding them, and like all sort of like serve the plot in some way. And I just like, this is my favorite thing that I've watched in a really long time. So I really hope people will watch it because it's
So would you watch this again?
yeah, I have watched it again. Not
Okay.
watch, another tip, don't watch the shortened version on YouTube. They did like a first anniversary like edition and it's shorter and they cut out all of the like, they cut out a lot of what makes this story interesting.
Okay.
Don't watch that. Also, they changed the lighting or something. It looks weird. But yeah, I would absolutely watch it again. I have watched many parts of it many times.
Mhm.
I will talk anybody's ear off who will listen about how much I love this show.
Okay,
So
final question. What did you think about the 2 spin-off movies?
you're hilarious. I only watched one and
Okay.
was deeply regretful of that use of my time. Do not, I do not recommend the spin-off movies. I know you want to see your friends again. And this is the thing. When you watch a show that is really good, at the end of it, you miss your friends. You are devastated. Your soul is sad that your friends are gone, right? So like,
Yeah.
that's when you know it's good. You miss them and you want to watch their horrible spin-off movies, but they are horrible.
Okay, I've seen them both. Okay, and I agree. The one about the Ghost General is so unfortunately bad because actually I did want to see Winding again, and he was with Sidekick, and I wanted to see their adventures. It was terrible, and it was such a waste of time. And I don't know what it is with CGI, but like it was terrible. So that was not worth it. I also watched the other one. I can't remember what it's called, but it's the one about the 2 brothers, the Near brothers. And I really wanted to like it. And I actually liked it about 100 times better than the Winning one, which is not hard to do
Those
because that one
two
was
were
just,
interesting characters.
yes.
Interesting
But
characters.
yes. But unfortunately, it was also ruined by too much CGI. So I would say the first 30 minutes and the last 15 minutes were the 2 bits that you really, really wanted to have more on. And everything in the middle, which was CGI fighting, you really didn't want more of. So, like, I wish they would have done more with that because, like, I think that they had figured out what it is that makes those 2 brothers interesting because of the way the first bit was and the way that it ended, especially because of the way it ended. And I will not spoil either the series or the movie by saying like how it ended, but
Good
I'm just
job.
saying like they should have made that part the part that they filmed about because I would have watched like hours of that.
I think another thing that I
I'm not,
love is that thing that you're not
yeah.
saying. I did not see that coming. And I was in it. These are my friends, and I did not. That blew me away. I was so surprised. So there's a
Yeah.
big surprise in store. Watch this. Yeah.
Yes.
So I think
Okay.
that's it for our show
That's
today.
our review.
That's our review. Watch the Untamed. And we'll see you next time with more conversation about Chinese dramas or something.
Something else.